Welcome everyone to the Art of Faith. We're going to be talking about how faith and art intersect and how art can inform our faith. I'm Joshua Kapczynski, and this is my co-host, Joel Fairley, local artist and pastor extraordinaire. If you like what we're doing here on this show, please support us through our Patreon page in the notes. And we're going to go ahead and jump on into, this is our third one, huh?
Third one.
Episode number 3. This one is Faith in Film. So we're going to be talking about 3 films each that has more than just inspired us. God has talked to us.
Yes.
Through secular film.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to top it off with one Jesus film that we both agreed on.
Yes.
But these first 3 are secular films, secular works of art that has been done in film.
And the thing that's exciting about film is because it's an art form that is readily available to everyone. Not everybody's going to go to an art museum.
Right.
Not everybody's going to go to the Getty or LACMA.
Yeah.
But they're going to go to movies.
Right. I mean, and you and I can be snooty and snobby about art, which we were very snobby about art last week.
Easily. Sorry.
But the truth of the matter is, if Da Vinci was alive today, he'd be making film. Right?
Absolutely.
He would be messing around with paint.
Absolutely.
He would be in the digital space, and so would Michelangelo.
Do you remember? Do you remember Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when they brought back Beethoven?
Yes.
And how excited Beethoven was to have all the electronic equipment.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, celluloid is just as a relevant medium as canvas and oils, right?
Yep.
All right, and then God speaks to us through that art.
Right.
Okay, so I know that we're both excited about this.
We're going to get rolling?
So you're going to get rolling. You get to go first.
Okay, I'll go first. My first pick is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay.
I first saw the movie on television, and it was the movie of the week, filled with commercials, and also I don't know why they did it. I think it was on Channel 5. It was back in the 60s. They cut it in half. And so they showed one day and then the next day. And I remember so excited to come home from school because I got to watch the second half of that. And then I read the book.
Okay.
And I had found usually often what happens is you read the book and say, oh, the movie is better. This is the first time of a combination of a film and a book that were in concert with one another. And you can't honestly say, at least for me, oh, well, I prefer the book better. The book just has more.
Yeah.
I think they complement each other beautifully. And this, and I'm so glad I saw the movie before because it made my reading the book richer because it was these characters.
You had the characters, the faces.
My Atticus Finch was Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And the reason why this speaks to me spiritually is, well, for obvious reasons. I mean, it's like one of those, it's in the title.
Yeah.
You know, it's a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Yeah.
Being able to recognize beauty in ugly situations. And the integrity of Atticus Finch. His heart, his love for his kids, which was not demonstrative necessarily,
right,
but his love was true and was there and was very godly.
Yeah. When was it? When did
1961.
61. Okay.
Academy Award, he won the Academy Award Best Actor, won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay. To me, it's one of the flawless movies that there is. The little gems in it are the score. The person who composed the score is one of my favorite film composers of all time, Elmer Bernstein.
Okay.
You don't know him very much, but you've heard his music. Dun, dun, da, dun, dun, da, 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 da. He wrote, he's amazing film composer. And then we get the first screen debut of one of this age's greatest actors of all time, Academy Award winner, Robert Duvall.
He's in this.
Yes.
He's the kid?
Boo Radley.
Okay. Wow.
Have you read the book?
I have not.
Have you seen the movie?
I've seen the movie.
Okay.
I saw it when I was a kid in school, and I hate to say it, but I don't remember it that well. But
Okay.
yeah.
He's Boo Radley.
Okay.
Hey, Boo.
Uh-huh.
Now, spiritually, what this means to me is, I believe that Atticus Finch, played by Gregory Peck, creates for us a model of a man, of what God wants us to be. He reminded me a lot of my own father.
Got it.
Lots of integrity. And there is the whole context. I had one. Oh, and also in the movie and in the book, there is a character, Dill. Remember Dill? Dill was patterned after another famous author that Harper Lee grew up with. Truman Capote.
Okay.
You've heard that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And the part of it that says, there's a part in the book that is just beautiful, and it's in the movie. It says neighbors, I hope I want to get it right. Neighbors bring food and cakes during funerals and other celebration times. Boo was our neighbor. He brought us 2 soap dolls, a knife, and gave us our lives, because he saved them at the end.
Okay.
And to me, this reminds me of, in many ways, of no greater love than this.
Yeah.
That a man lay down his life for his friends.
Yeah.
And Boo was this, wraith that no one, mysterious person nobody knew about. And in the corner of that poster, in the bottom of that poster, that's Boo Radley. That's Robert Duvall.
Wow. No, I had no idea he was in that.
Yeah, and the kids are amazing. Those kids are absolutely.
Okay, so where is we have the integrity of a godly man, but where is Christ in this, and where's
Christ is really in Atticus.
Okay.
Because of what because he sacrifices so much in order to defend a black man for a crime he did not commit in a racist society, is standing up for something that people don't understand.
Right.
The scene in the movie, and it's in the book, and the book is amazing, but the scene in the movie that does it very well. The courtroom is crowded, and because of segregation at that time, all the white people were sitting at the bottom in the courtroom, and all the blacks had to sit up in the balcony, and it was just crowded with people up there, and it was the African American pastor who was up there, and the kids were sitting with them, and were sitting up there to watch this happen, and they're heartbroken over the verdict.
Yeah.
So everybody is filing out of the courtroom after it's done, and all the black people remain in the balcony. And the book describes this scout as a little girl. She's just sitting there just in despair and looking at, and then she becomes aware that all the black people are standing in the balcony. And the Reverend says, and her real name is Jean Louise, and says, "Miss Jean Louise, stand up." And she looks at him, "Stand up. Your father's passing." And as he was going out of the courtroom, they were all standing, honoring him
Wow.
for
It's
what
powerful,
he did.
isn't it?
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
All right, that's a good one.
You didn't see that coming,
didn't
huh?
see that one coming.
To Kill a
All right.
Mockingbird.
Ready for mine?
Yeah.
Okay, same period, close to the same period, maybe a little bit later. Cool Hand Luke.
Oh,
You like this one?
Fantastic.
So, Cool Hand Luke, late 60s, maybe 70s? Probably most likely late 60s.
I saw it when it first came out.
Did you really?
Yes.
No,
I was in the theater.
I saw this in high school. So my English teacher made us watch it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I have to watch this, this old-timey movie. And I get it. Like, okay, so it's kind of like a, working man's story. It's the grapes of wrath. It's Southern culture. I like, okay, so I have to be, I have to get this Americana. I understand that. And so, for those of you who don't know, Cool Hand Luke is a story about a convict who basically loves and encourages the other inmates and inspires them. And that's it in a nutshell.
And he's a rebel.
And he's a rebel. And so, it's played by Paul Newman. And when I first saw it, I'm like, Paul Newman's the coolest guy in the world in this movie. He's, Cool Hand Luke. It just kind of makes it. So, like, I was just captivated by his character in and of itself. And in that, that working man story, I did see a lot of my grandfather in him. So, my dad's dad was an oil rig worker. He never went to prison, but he worked hard, jobs. He picked cotton in Bakersfield, was an oil rig worker. So I kind of, and
your dad was your grandfather?
My grandfather, yeah.
Mine was too.
Was he?
In Bakersfield.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're an Okie.
He was a derrickman. He came. His family came from Texas.
Really?
But he worked in Long Beach, worked in Fullerton in the oil industry there, and ended up in the Kern County area.
Oh my gosh!
And he was a derrickman, and before he got hurt.
We probably should compare notes.
Yeah,
That's
fantastic.
funny.
Go ahead.
So it is even his personality, and even the way that he looked reminded me a lot of my grandpa. So I loved it, and I was just like, watching it. Finished it off. We finished the movie. Again, it's about this convict. He gets arrested for doing something really silly. He's chopping the tops off of parking meters. And so I just like it, and then it's done so well. So the opening scene is he's got this pipe cutter and he's just going from parking meter to parking meter, and he's just slowly sawing these things off until they fall off. And then the cop shows up and he's laughing because he knows what's going to take place. And so it starts off that way, and then he makes an impact on the individual lives of the other inmates in this work gang.
He's a redemptive personality.
Right. And so my English teacher begins to unpack the movie and explains existentialism to us. And I had no concept of existentialism. That's just that philosophy, or that way of thinking is just basically we have to do something, right? If there's a rock, we're going to push it up the hill. So if there is a parking meter, well, it's just asking to have its head cut off. So that's the idea of the existential crisis, is that man has to do something. And then he goes into, and again, this is probably the first time I've ever was exposed to this type of literature. And he goes into how Paul Newman, how Luke is a Christ type. And then he begins to unpack everything about how there is a confrontation between good and evil in this situation, and how Luke does not deserve to be there. Like, his crime does not fit his punishment. In fact, he committed this crime, this silly crime, in order to be with people. And so my mind starts really spinning when he begins to say, no, he wants to be there. He wants to help these guys. And we see him beginning to live not just sacrificially, but he begins to inspire this group of people. And the irony is that he is in a penal system. So he is in a system that is there to reform people, right? It's there to reform men. And yet he's bucking against this system the whole time. And in the end, he sets them all free, at least their spirits. And the biggest part of the movie is the scene where it's the boiled egg eating competition, and where he eats 50 boiled eggs, and he wins the bet, and he inspires all the guys because he's completed this existential exercise of eating all of these eggs for a bet. And then when he's done, the camera pans out, and he is laid out on the table in a perfect crucifix. And the way that it's shot, I mean, it's as if you're looking at a crucifix from, the Renaissance or something like that. It's exquisite.
Yeah.
And so he's a Christ figure. It's an existential Jesus Christ that the movie is portraying.
And we have to be clear. It's not a Christ figure that fits into a religious box.
No, because
put it this way, into a cultural Christianity box.
Right. And like, okay, so what is the author trying to say? What is the movie trying to say? I mean, it's as if, the penal situation, the jail system is almost a religion in and of itself. It's not necessarily one of the wardens, but one of the guys in there says, okay, you have to obey these rules. You can't smoke in your bed. You can't, you can't be up all night. You can't get into your bed dirty. So he's got all these rules, and there's 10 of them. So there's the 10 commandments of the prison system. So everything is very well thought out. Everything there's numerologies all through the film. So all the numbers mean something. And so Luke, and there's some really good evidence that's even written and based off of the Gospel of Luke. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So
okay, now I got to go back.
Now you got to go back and look at it, huh?
Yeah.
Luke is going up against all of the rules. He is confronting the law. Literally and figuratively, he's confronting the law.
And confronting those who know the law.
Yes.
And have authority.
Yes. And there is
wow.
There is a very powerful Pilate Jesus moment. And so it's with the warden and him, and it's one of the most famous lines in all cinema. It's in the top 100 for sure.
Of cinematic lines?
Cinematic lines of all time. And
let me say it.
Do you know it?
Yeah.
Okay, you say it then. Let me hear you say it.
What we have here is a failure to communicate.
Yes.
Right?
So, yeah, that's it. What we have here is a failure to communicate. And he repeats it, and it's just, again, it's all the parallels are all there. And then, of course, in the end, he sacrifices himself. The movie pans out with the work gang, the chain gang, and it's in the image of a cross. There's a photograph that gets sent back that's the creases form a cross. And so when my teacher was explaining the Christ symbolism in the movie, my mind opened up. Because I sat through the movie, I didn't pick up on any of it, right?
We don't
normally. And then he begins to explain it, and then he begins to show it. And again, then my mind just opened up. And then you begin to see the Christ figure in a lot of different movies. But Cool Hand Luke was the first. And it is a masterpiece. But just the way that, even the way that he portrays, that figure that lives sacrificially and that lives even above the system, even though he's a part of the system. He has to be stuck in the system, but he's way above the system.
You are not in the world.
Yeah.
You are not of the world, but you are in
He's
the
in
world.
it, yeah. And
You're in the world, but not of the world.
and he is getting, he's trying. He's saying we can escape. We can get out of this. It's fascinating. So, but again, him being in the system and trying to work his way out, trying to make sense of it.
That is fascinating because that's what Jesus came to do, to
Right.
say to us, there is an escape from this world.
Yeah. Yep.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
To escape this, yeah. And
All right, and there's more to come on that theme of escaping this
Okay.
world. We got.
Oh,
I got.
okay.
All right, so why don't you give me your second one?
Well, no, not yet. I wanted
yet,
to
okay.
make the comment, especially about that movie, how this movie is. I was uncomfortable when I first saw this movie as a kid, and I was uncomfortable because it was filmed in such a way that it portrayed. I could feel how hot it was where they were.
I know.
I could.
I know.
It wasn't. I wasn't sweaty, but I could
Yeah.
feel like sweat was coming off me, and
Yeah.
it was incredibly done. And George Kennedy won an Academy Award.
He did, and
For
he
Best
was,
Supporting Actor.
Yeah, and so it's who is he biblically? He's easily Peter,
Easily,
and he's a great Peter.
yeah.
You could even say he's Judas, so he could have played both, but he's definitely Peter.
He's definitely Peter. And then
Yeah.
there's that slick guy,
Yeah.
black hair.
Yeah.
That take a pick, Levi, Judas, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so good. Wow, great. Okay, my film is a comedy,
Oh.
well known.
So God spoke to you on Groundhog Day
recently.
recently.
This was
All right.
a recent experience. I was getting, and it really hit me that I think that all of us as Christians and followers of Jesus, and we're not going to find a Christ figure in here. I'm not looking for a Christ figure. This is not. This is us. This is men and women every day
Yeah.
trying to follow Jesus into the paths of righteousness, and we fail at it every day.
Yeah.
And the Groundhog Day, if no one's seen it, is the Bill Murray character is in I don't know. Punxsutawney,
Punxsutawney,
Pennsylvania, on Groundhog Day, and he's a cynical weatherman. He's selfish, self-centered, and he keeps living the same day over and over and over again. And it's a theme that other films have borrowed. But what happens is he gets so sick of living every day, the same day. And so then he says, well, if I'm going to live the same day, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And how many times have I said, I'm always failing, so shoot, I'm going to fail on purpose all the time. And because I have to start over anyway.
Yeah.
And then what happens as he keeps living this day over and over again is that he discovers a grace in it, and he discovers a beauty in it. And that really by the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, you get the feeling that he thinks that if I have to live this day over and over again, I'm going to live it with a sense of grace and kindness and goodness. And
he accepts it.
Is that what?
And he accepts it.
And he accepts it.
Yeah.
And I think this is, I think what I have for me, and what I think the hope is for all of us who are Christians, is that we think God is going to be angry with us for the sins that we commit. And the grace is He's not angry with us. He's not punishing us. He's just giving us a reset.
Right.
And so people may be frustrated with their life in Christ, and we're just in the middle of a reset.
Yeah.
And we can get frustrated by always feeling like we're going backwards in our faith. And the point is, let's embrace our Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I like it.
And let's embrace the fact that God in his gentleness does give us a reset and does let us start over.
Yeah.
And he's just simply so gracious and good about that. Now, did this surprise you that I picked
It kind of did. I mean, it makes sense after you're explaining it. But Bill Murray is like the perfect knucklehead of a guy.
Oh, he is. And
yeah, he's a brilliant comedian, but if you think about it, he is every guy, or at least every guy wants to be.
He's
him.
every guy. He's not the most handsome.
No.
He's not the most talented.
Yeah. He's carnal. He's base.
Carnal.
He's selfish.
He's base. He makes mistakes. Yeah. He is that.
Yeah.
And then there's that scene, and I think it's about. And then there's that scene where he's all disheveled and he's just over every day.
Yeah.
And he begins to point out to each person, did you know that she? Did you know that she? Did you know that he? And he, and he. And you see the compassion. And that maybe that in the redoing of it is that we have the opportunity before we get to a brand new day. At the end, we have an opportunity to discover the joy of what's in between.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus is on his way to heal Jairus' daughter. And in between, there's the woman with the issue of blood.
Yes.
Who touches the garment.
Yes.
So in between in our Groundhog Day, where we're living our Groundhog Day experiences in terms of feeling like we're repeating ourselves in our carnality, if you will. God will show us the grace.
Yeah. And he is in the everyday. I mean, we don't perceive it or see it. I think this is, when we get to the last one, like our Both Jesus movie, we can definitely talk about that. Because, there's no Jesus in the whole movie until pretty much the very end.
True.
But there's that one moment. And
it's enough.
It's enough. But it's real life. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But that's real life, right? The problem with us charismatics is that we want the electricity every day. We want Jesus in our face every moment, face-to-face encounters.
Yeah.
But the reality is that he speaks to us in the still small voice, and he is in the mundane, and it's not the mountaintop experience every Sunday, although that's what we want.
Well, the pandemic was a Groundhog Day.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, it really is, because, again, we want, the faith questions come up. Where is God? How come God didn't stop this? How come all the prophets are wrong? And, we're just dealing with the reality that this, we're getting rained on here. It's raining on the just and the unjust in this season. And
the believer, and I think God says to the believer, guess what?
Yeah.
You get to have me every day.
Yeah.
I wake you up.
Yeah.
I am with you when you have to take the dog out at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And you take the same route.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the moment, and so I think it's a maddening movie. My wife cannot stand this movie because it's maddening.
Yeah, no,
it's
I
tedious.
think it's great. I think it's great. And I mean, Bill Murray.
But the redemption part of it,
he ends up being a redeemed man.
He's a redeemed man,
and it just took that process of living the same day over and over and over again.
And to open himself up
Yeah.
to the my dad when he was a preacher, he was a great preacher, but my dad had a theme he always returned to, is that God's ability to reveal himself in the common stuff, to use shepherds,
Yeah.
to use everyday things like earthen vessels.
Right.
You have this gift and an earthen vessel.
So, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but what would a Calvinist think of this movie? I don't know what you are. I don't know if you're a Calvinist.
I'm not.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, we did talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Not at all.
But we both believe in the sovereignty of God.
Absolutely.
And so this is a great illustration of the sovereignty of God, of there are no plan Bs, there's just another plan A.
It's just another plan A, and I'm going to take you through it. I'm going to, there was a time in my life, because of some sinful choices that I made, that I had to leave ministry.
Yeah.
I didn't stop being what God called me to be. It was
a reset. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
It was a reset. And we're just going to reset this right now.
That's good.
God's not mad to reset. God, reset.
Right.
We're upset about it.
You didn't surprise him, huh?
But let's reset this.
Yeah.
Let's just do this over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it. I love it.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. I'm going to geek out on you.
I hope
on
so.
my next one. Super nerdy. But Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Okay, so it's kind of a double. I'm cheating. So the cartoon, but and the feature film.
Okay.
So
you're doubling
both.
up.
It's both.
Okay.
I mean, because the first one was when I was a boy and I saw the film, and of course I loved it because it's just cool, right?
Animated.
It's
and cool.
animated,
Yes,
and there's swords, and there's blood, and there's
Yeah.
knights and elves and dragons. So, yeah, I liked it. And then from that, I read the books. Mm-hmm. And in college, I actually took a class on Tolkien. I did a semester on Tolkien. So I kind of went deep into who he was and his purpose and what he was trying to communicate in his writings.
An amazing illustrator too, by the way.
And yes, yeah. And Howell is I love Howell's illustrations. So that was just incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cartoon but I might as well just talk about the movies that came out because they did a decent job. But me being a big old Tolkien
nerd.
So I had some issues with some of it.
Now, we're not necessarily talking about the animated version.
We can talk about both.
Okay. Which one are you referring to right now?
Actually, the story in general. But well, let's just go with the live action.
Okay.
The live action version. But the same principle applies in the cartoon that it is in the books that is in the live action. And that is, that what Tolkien is communicating is, yes, the whole good and evil conflict, right? Mm-hmm. And what most people might not see when they watch the movies is, like, Jesus is all over it. And so, yeah. And so, in Cool Hand Luke, we have a very specific Christ type. But it doesn't translate over so directly in the Lord of the Rings because Frodo he does Christ type things, but he's not quite, it doesn't always fit together, right?
Right.
So, he doesn't die at the end. He doesn't sacrifice himself, but he does carry the sins of the world in the form of that ring. So you could, in the way that he acts, you can easily say, okay, Frodo is definitely a Christ type. Mm-hmm. The illustration of the analogy will break apart eventually.
I think it probably is a reflection of the responsibility that the early church had for the gospel.
Yeah, and what I believe Tolkien is doing is that he's pushing Jesus for 3, maybe 4 major characters in the book. So we got Frodo, who has, you know, the sins of the world on him, like literally carrying it on him, and he's going to take care of it, right? He is the average person or the average hobbit that has been tasked with an impossible task.
Yeah.
You have Gandalf the wizard. So he's an eternal being. He's a wizard. That sounds really weird for Christians to say, but
Not
he's
for
a
me.
wizard, right?
Not for this Christian.
Yeah. In his world, though, in the world of Middle Earth, he is an angel or a demigod. He is not. He just has in the moment he has a human flesh, but he's an eternal being, and then he's incarnated into the flesh. Then of course he has the battle with the evil one, and he dies, and Gandalf does resurrect.
Absolutely.
And he has this divine spirit about him, and he flies around on divine eagles. So Jesus is all over Gandalf.
All over Gandalf, exactly.
And in the end, you have the return of the king, and you have Jesus all over Aragorn, who is, he is the Messiah figure. He's the second coming of the king. Makes everything right. Establishes his kingdom on earth, and so clearly Aragorn is a Christ figure, and this one I think we can fight for, but Samwise Gamgee he's also a ring bearer. He also has to carry this ring, but more importantly, he is the suffering servant. He is the beast of burden. He picks Frodo up when he has to be carried.
Yeah, I can't carry it, but I can carry you.
And so what I think Tolkien is doing is he's pushing Jesus into his story, into those 4 characters, and those 4 characters represent our 4 Gospels.
Oh, fabulous.
Isn't that great?
Oh, great. Oh, I'm stealing that.
So we have Frodo who's going to be the Gospel.
All depicting Jesus.
All depicting Jesus. So he's going to be the Gospel of Luke.
Yes.
The human version.
Yes.
Gandalf is clearly the Gospel of John, because it's just all spirit, and the Gospel of John is represented by eagles.
Yes.
And Aragorn is the Gospel of Matthew, the messianic line, and the lineage of Jesus, and he is a Jew, and he is of royal birth, and he goes back to King David, and then Mark is the suffering servant, the beast of burden, the ox, which is Samwise Gamgee, who's just lowly.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
And so so if somebody were listening to this, what would they do? You go into the cinema, or you go into these stories, bring in the Lord and say, what do you want to say to me?
Yeah.
And so you walk into this open posture, instead of judging it according to your standards, and say, well, it doesn't do this, and it should do this, and but just, God, what do you have for me in this? That's fabulous.
Yeah. And when we were, when I did the semester on Tolkien, we were asking the question. I think actually the professor asked the question, "What is the ring?" And we're like, it's evil. It's like, well, it's bad. Of course, he's like, no, but let's just really think about it. Let's put it like, what is he trying to say with the ring? And so as we were thinking about it more and more, and again, when you're looking at Tolkien's life, and when you're looking at C.S. Lewis's life, so for those that you don't know, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were contemporaries. They were friends. They drank beer together. They hung out in the pub all the time, and they shared life together. And they shared
some
say,
we don't know how true it is, but some say that Tolkien was instrumental in C.S. Lewis's
conversion,
faith development.
Yeah, I would probably say so.
Yeah.
There's Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings are very similar in style, but Lord of the Rings is a bit darker, a little bit heavier. And Tolkien served in the war, and so that was informing his writing, was the horror and the tragedy of war. So you actually see that in his writings. And another thing that Tolkien and Lewis both were confronting, and I think it's something that we have to confront too, whether we realize it or not, but they were confronting the effects of the industrial age on society and culture. And so, again, I don't think we came up with this. I think our professor just told us. But the ring to Tolkien represented the machine. So yes, it's evil, but it also represents the system of man and the machine of man that we're so dependent upon.
Wow.
And it has us so trapped.
Wow.
Kind of, getting back into the system, and it's the divine that wants to free us from a system that is oppressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tolkien and Lewis, they did not like the industrial age. They were naturalists. I mean, you see that in the movie when the trees and the ants are
Absolutely.
We see the conflict between nature and industry.
Yeah.
I guess we deal with it. I mean, we have environmentalists, but we don't necessarily do it on a Christian.
Well, but
basis
we also,
these
how
days.
Dependent are we upon devices?
Oh yeah, we're so in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, we're doing devices right now. I mean, we're so in. I mean, we just don't know how deep in we are. But
but the good news in all of that is that will all be redeemed.
Yeah.
And at the coming of Christ, at the end of the age.
Yeah.
It will all be redeemed.
Yeah, and it's, they had to deal with, what was their relationship to the industrialized world. I don't know if they came to peace with that, but we have to deal with the reality of what's our relationship with the digital world, or I mean, I don't know what Tolkien would do if he was alive right now. I don't know how he would view the whole digital AI world or not. But it would be interesting to ask.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm so glad you picked Lord of the Rings. I'm really glad, because I had a epiphanal moment in viewing of these films, and I view them religiously every year. I go through
the whole series.
Now I even go through The Hobbit, and I know The Hobbit is panned, but I go through all of it, and the one that arrests me all the time, brings tears to my eyes, and challenges my heart, because I see myself in it, but I also see the Lord in it, and what the Lord is doing for me. When at that scene in Fellowship of the Ring, and they're going through, I don't know what the caves are.
Yeah, Moria.
The Moria. Yeah. And the creature comes up.
Yeah.
And Gandalf played perfected perfectly by Sir Ian McKellen.
Yeah. That standoff.
With that sword says, "You shall not pass." Yeah. And I hope I can tell this story, but my brother was going through a crisis in his life, and he was going to make some decisions that would change everything for him. And he was a pastor as well. And his friend looked at him, and he wasn't really speaking to him.
Yeah.
But he was speaking to the decision that my brother wanted to desperately make. And he looked at him and said, "You shall not pass." You shall not pass. I see the Lord standing in front of me and you and all of us, and all these forces of the world of evil around us. And God takes his sword of his word and says, "You shall not pass."
Yeah, it's such a powerful moment. And again, that's where, it's in that moment where he dies and resurrects.
Right. And that's and Jesus is on the cross.
Yeah. That's exactly what's going on.
He's on the cross.
Yeah.
"Forgive them, Lord. They don't know what they do. You shall not pass."
Yeah. No, it's such a
Beautiful.
great scene, and I love the movies. I'm even okay with most of the artistic license.
Uh-huh.
Might not want to get me going about The Hobbit.
Okay,
but
I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
But for
Because
the-
I've read The Hobbit a dozen
right,
times.
and it's just that movie was just it was too much.
Okay, I get it. But I still have.
You know,
Did I have fun at the movies?
absolutely,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's great. I mean, the
And
action's good.
that's my judge.
It it was entertaining. So I kind of had to put my literary snobby stuff aside. There's one problem I had with Return of the King, and that was the confrontation between Gandalf and the Witch King. Because in the book, Gandalf wins.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, Gandalf loses. So that's my big major.
Okay.
That's my big major issue with the whole film.
Okay.
The stuff that they do, with the other characters, that it's fine. Like I'm okay. Like I can deal with the romance, and that's fine. Well,
Yeah.
I can give that. But that one I had a problem with.
Okay.
That,
Well, I think one of the delightful turns is for me is also was what was done with Gollum.
yeah.
Gollum is the epitome for me, and the epitome for what happens when we give into
Yeah.
and we eternalize, we lose ourselves.
Yeah.
So much so that I first heard an interpretation that when he speaks of my precious, everything is, we usually think it's referred to the ring. He's his precious.
Yeah, he's himself, yeah. No, I think that, being in darkness, being completely consumed with yourself, they do that brilliantly.
Brilliantly.
Both in the book and in the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean,
very good.
That schizophrenic thing that they do in the movie is just incredible.
So good.
Wow.
Good job.
Thank you. I
Good
know.
one. Yeah, good one.
All right, what's your next one?
Next, Avatar.
Okay.
You gotta live with this for a little bit.
Yeah, no, okay.
Okay, so this is one movie that I absolutely that I was sitting in, and I had a conversation with God, literally, and I. The movie started, and I'm like, okay, I'm interested in this. Is neat. This is cool. I like what they're doing. And let me just say right now, whether people like Avatar or not, or Bound It, before I get to my thing, I just want to say this. I loved Avatar. I also liked it when it was called Dances with Wolves.
Yeah. You can't really get around that.
You can't get around that.
Yeah.
So I know that, and I admit it, and I know that it had an agenda. Mm-hmm. But I knew that going in. And because movies have agendas.
Sure.
That's not what attracted me to this movie. The story is this humans are invading this world, Pandora, for a rare element. Mm-hmm. And in order to retrieve this element, they have to conquer the indigenous people that live there. And the point is to destroy them. Okay. And so what they would do is there is this soldier that is transferred into the body of these native people. And so he infiltrates the society based on that.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the movie, and what gets me into the movie is the stunning beauty of how it's filmed.
Yes.
You've seen it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Stunningly beautiful. And I'm just taken by the artistic stuff. And then I got into the story of it and what he's trying to do, and the female is teaching him what it means to be a Na'vi, but what it means to live in this world. They're deity that they worship is Ewa,
Yeah.
and their deity is their world.
Yeah.
And so, and they have these long braids that everyone has. And all the creatures that they interact with, whether it be a horse or something that flies, is they take their braid and connect to that creature.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
great,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to do it. And then, and this is the part that got me, is I slowly dawned on me, because they kept saying that everything living in this world is connected to Ewa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, okay, they're connecting up with their God.
Right.
So the scene where the conversation got really strong with me and the Lord, and just puddled me, is when they climbed up the floating rocks.
Yeah.
So that Jake Sully could get his Iklan, his banshee, and so he could fly, be a flyer.
Yeah.
And so he made it all the way up there, and you gotta get up there to get there. You gotta want to get there,
Right.
because it's an arduous task. And he receives the instructions. Says, what you will do is you will go and I forget the phrase, but to make
The connection. Or
make a
the
connection,
bond.
make the
bond.
connection.
Isn't it the bond?
Yeah, make the bond.
Yeah,
To make the bond.
Yeah.
And so you must make the bond with your Iklan, with your banshee, and you must choose your banshee, and your Iklan will choose you.
Yeah.
And he looks at her and says, how will I know he's chosen me? And she says,
You'll know.
he will try and kill you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden then, like I am right now, all of a sudden then the Holy Spirit came over me. And I felt, I had this idea, and then God said, just watch. So they go through this hassle, they tussle.
Right.
But he says in that response, after she says he'll try to kill you, he says, okay, let's dance. And then he goes through it, captures it, and then he makes the bond.
All right, so is this like a Genesis 34 moment for you? The Jacob wrestling with God? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
It's this moment, and then they take off, and then they fly.
Yeah.
And then I said, God, are you trying to kill me?
Yeah. The answer is yes, right?
And he said, yeah.
Yeah. That is so good.
If any man be in Christ, I have been crucified with Christ. It is not I who live, but Christ who lives within me. And then they took off, and then the beautiful scene of them flying. And I asked the Lord, while this is all going on, I asked, is this what you want to do with me? Mm-hmm. Is this what you want me to experience with you? And God said, yes. Let's dance.
Yeah. It's the whole come and see and come and taste.
Taste and see that the Lord, He is good. Experience.
But also come and die.
Come and die.
And
He bids us to die.
and that's a scary proposition.
That is a scary proposition, and and it was illustrated beautifully in that experience.
Absolutely.
And their world is literally inviting them
To do that.
to be in an intimate relationship with them. In order to be who they are and discover who they are as a people, they have to be in an intimate relationship with their God.
Yeah.
And Jesus came and said, Here's my nail-scarred hands.
Yeah.
Connect with me.
Yeah.
Connect with me. And let me show you.
But there's the antagonist too, which we can relate to.
There is the antagonist.
There's the corporation, right? Mm-hmm. There's the evil empire. Mm-hmm. There's the penal institution, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. There's
the institutional.
There's the ring again. There's
the injustice.
Yeah. There's the machine and the injustice.
Exactly.
And they are. I mean, in one way, Jake Sully he's literally born again. Right?
Literally born again. Literally.
So that he can see a new world and experience a new world and
must
connect.
Be born again.
Yeah. And he was part of the system. Mm-hmm. He was part of the corporation.
And it's redemptive.
Yeah. Very good.
I
didn't see it that way.
You didn't see it that way.
No, I saw Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people do.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But there's no original stories out there.
Oh, there's got to be some.
But there really isn't. But so this is you. First of all, you hook me with beauty.
Yeah.
You give me some color. And now I don't think that do you think James Camden was thinking about having a personal relationship with the Lord? But this movie was an illustration for me.
Well, okay, let's talk about that.
Of an intimacy with Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the thought that directors and writers, although they're not overtly Christian, mm-hmm. they probably internally and in their DNA, they're working out that stuff. In their
you're giving them more credit.
You think so?
Yeah, I think what God is doing is because creativity ultimately belongs to the Lord. If God wants to intervene through man's creativity, He's going to intervene.
Right.
And He's going to show up. And there's probably things. I think if we go back to every movie and ask the question, Lord, where are you? What do you want me to know? Every movie that we enjoy that touches our heart and touches our spirit, He's going to show us something.
I agree. I also think that the gospel is in every person's DNA, mm-hmm. and it's going to get out. Whether they agree with it or accept mm-hmm. it or embrace it or not, mm-hmm. it will get expressed.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Avatar.
Get born again. I like it.
Yeah.
Get connected.
Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Okay,
so my next one's on par, close to the same age as this one.
Okay.
Matrix.
Oh! I was wrong.
What would you think?
I thought your third one was something. I don't want to say it because
Just go ahead and say it.
I thought it was Shawshank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay.
This is awesome.
Yeah, so Matrix in the 90s. So when I went to go see it, I saw it in the theater, and I just went in for a shoot 'em up. Mm-hmm. Right? I just oh, this is cool. I saw the trailer, and there's some kung fu flips and dodging bullets and stuff. I'm like, cool, I'm in. And I just wanted to see a shoot 'em up.
Because we just want to get a little violent.
I just wanted some action. And little did I know how deep this movie was going to go. Mm-hmm. And then the moment when he takes you take a red pill or a blue pill, I forget.
I don't either.
Takes the red pill, right? He takes a red pill. The guys don't remember. I'm pretty sure it's a red pill. He takes the red pill, and then he literally wakes up from being plugged in again to a machine, a literal machine, and he's been living in a simulation his entire life. And when he pops out of that pod, and it's like a birth, right? It's like a new birth. It's literally gross and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what is going on? It took me a little while to figure out what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a different kind of a movie. And they just kind of come out and say it. There's no really hidden meanings in it, but they say it over and over again that he is a Christ type. And there's, the drug dealer that says, hey man, you're my own personal Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And, he saves humanity from being plugged into the machine. He frees everyone. And then, he is Neo. He's literally the one.
New.
And he's
Neo.
new.
Yeah.
And he's the one backwards, and he's prophesied over. I mean, Jesus is all over this character, and then, and he dies and he resurrects and he's glorified, and so he has the transfiguration moment. Gandalf had the transfiguration moment too, by the way. But so he has that transfiguration moment. Gets a little Buddha in there. There's a little annoying things in there, but for the most part, it's just that story of redemption. And
just real quick before you go on, a question I have is when we speak of how would you address if somebody were to say that, as you refer to Neo as the Christ figure, that this film would be, and you said it's blatantly, that they would say that it's sacrilegious and even blasphemous.
Yeah, I mean,
what is your response to that?
Well,
okay, number one, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, some people do, but people have been saying that since day one.
People have been saying that about art
since the very
since
beginning.
day one.
Yeah,
since people first wrote on caves.
Yeah, because it's idolatry. I mean, if you really want to challenge the concept of faith and art, you start to anthropomorphize the Godhead, then we are literally playing around with idolatry. So, is stained glass windows, idolatry. Illustrated books, idolatry. Passion plays, idolatry. Anything that we use to represent God, the Torah will say is idolatry. Passion of the Christ movie, idolatry. This new popular one, Chosen, which we haven't seen yet, idolatry. And so, we can make that argument, and I don't think that it's necessarily fair.
I don't think it is.
And because now, if I was bowing down and worshiping Neo, and if I had an altar to him in my bedroom, that might be one exception, and maybe some people. We know that
this is a picture.
Yeah, and we know that people do that.
And they do that with people. They
do that. Yeah.
They listen. They may not go. It may not go to the extent of building and bowing down to them, but sometimes pastors can be the center of worship.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is. Let's just be transparent. Pastor time. It happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
More than we would like to admit, and you see it. You see the idolatry of pastors. I mean, you can see it in the megachurch and the televangelists, right? I mean, that's we're dealing with the repercussions of celebrity pastors right now. Pastors gone wrong. But like even in our context of local ministry and small church ministry, it's such an easy thing that gets projected on us. And you know that it's happening when first they think that you're amazing, right? And you know this from experience. The same ones that think that you're amazing will think that you're also the source of all of their problems when their prayers don't get answered or when their life goes sideways. That when life goes sideways, then it's Pastor Joel's fault because he didn't pray for me enough, or he didn't disciple me, or I'm not getting fed in his church.
Yeah.
And again, that's just another form of idolatry.
Yeah.
And I think that, the arts, all forms of the arts. So let's just go ahead. We can even push it into music.
Oh, forget
Right?
it. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm oh, you don't do contemporary music.
Yeah.
I'm not going.
Right.
I can't worship
Yeah.
because you don't do. I can't worship because you don't sing hymns.
Yeah.
You don't have an organ in your church.
Yeah.
I'm not. I can't worship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
I hope we're not getting off track.
no, I think that this is great because, and even in all of these movies, again, we were talking about personal connection to the Lord, to our Savior. If the art can lead to personal connection, then it's valuable. But if the art is being worshipped in and of itself as value, and you can't get to God without it, then that's idolatry. So, for example, my little Mary up here, Mike, you can't talk to God unless she mediates for you, right? Likewise, you can't connect with God unless you have the right worship to mediate for you, right? And you and I both have experienced this in worship sessions where I just didn't feel moved by worship today. Worship wasn't moving me today. And it's not for them.
It's not for that. But the thing is as I can experience that.
Yeah.
But that's not on them.
Yeah.
That's on me. Yeah. And when I have gotten to that place where I didn't feel like they were singing the songs that I like, that are easy for me to take steps into worship, God convicted me and said, this is why I gave you. I said I can't get there, and God said, well, that's why I gave you a prayer language.
Yeah.
To help be there, to clear that deck for you. So,
well, let's. I want to talk more about the whole
Go for it.
Is this blasphemous? Okay, so I mean so when Neo resurrects, and again it's they did a very good job of having him resurrect, and again it's like a transfiguration moment, like he is like Jesus was enlightened, he is enlightened, but they wash it with like a very Zen feel to it, right? And so there's that taste to it, and I could see how that could easily be offensive, and so for me as the Christian, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just spit that bone out, right?
Yeah.
Because I can still like this movie is making me think, and not only is it making me think, it quite possibly has something profound to say about spirituality, and about, transformation.
Notice we're never going. I don't think we've ever said, maybe to each other, you got to see this movie.
Yeah.
You got to see this movie. No. Yeah. That's not what we're saying.
Exactly.
We're saying we've seen these movies.
Yeah.
This is how God spoke to us in those movies.
Yeah. I think if the other two movies got really, really philosophical, wasn't even quite sure where they were going with it. But
I don't know even if I've even seen the third one yet. I'm going to revisit these.
All right, revisit them.
I'm going to revisit these.
The next two, with the exception of the action, they're really heady, and they're like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Because I love the first one because the concept was free will, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'm a big proponent of free will. Mm-hmm. I believe that I can choose. I believe that's how.
Not very Calvinistic.
It's not very Calvinistic at all. And then the second movie and the third movie, it got really annoying because they went to that philosophical argument that free will is an illusion, and like, whatever, don't tell me what to do. So it's like, so I hated that part. But anyway, I believe that they were true to the story of the sacrificial lamb in the first movie, 100%. I think like that they just told the story of Christ in this sci-fi action kung fu movie. if they would have portrayed Neo as a antichrist or a false Christ, a deceptive figure that was not a hero, then I'd have a problem with it.
Okay.
So kind of like, if somebody took your Superman and, made him Lex Luthor or something. I don't know. If they purposely, and maybe the comics have done this, but if they purposely trashed, the Man of Steel or changed his
the comic
character.
books don't need to trash the Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Comic book nerds do
it
that
all the
enough
time.
for them.
So
He's
guess-
probably one of the most maligned superheroes.
yeah, I guess my point is they didn't go out intentionally to mock Jesus in the movie. They were pointing to the spiritual truth to Jesus in the movie. Serrano's Piss Christ was intentionally done to offend Christians.
Okay.
So there's the difference, right?
There's
there.
a difference.
So that one is sacrilegious and that one is offensive, and that's what that was his intention when he made Piss Christ.
Well, in every story that has a redemptive figure, they are stepping into Christ-like shoes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I've come to make a change in your life.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
Wonderful.
I love Matrix.
Matrix.
And I want
to revisit
the rebirth of it, the waking up to what is reality? I think it's a really important question for us to ask right now. I'm not saying that we're living in a simulation, although at times it may feel like we're living in a simulation.
But what we can become.
What we can become.
Yeah.
Our kids, your grandkids, my grandkids, they might be plugging themselves into a simulation before not too long, and it's asking very important questions.
It's fascinating.
And in some ways, it's the same question that Tolkien's asking: the conflict between the natural world and the man-made machine world. And what is our relationship with that?
And as an avatar, are you going to fly with me, or are you going to fly?
Or are you going to be part of the corporation?
Or part of the corporation?
Yeah, pick your side.
Yeah.
And so it does tell that story, and I love all the parts about it where you need to free your mind and take that leap of faith, and so faith is all over it. It's great.
It's great. Boy, good choice. Yeah, I like your choices. They were great.
I know we're not supposed to do this, but can I give a runner-up or honorable
Yeah, go
mention?
ahead, real quick. Just a sentence or two or three about it.
Time Bandits.
Yeah.
Time Bandits, again, a great 80s kid film.
Yeah.
But at the end, the devil and God are having this conversation, and then the issue of free will comes up. Because the kid asked the classic problem of evil: why did all these bad things happen? And God just says, because of free will.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, that one was a big player for me.
Okay, so I love that, Time Bandit. Then I'm going to throw in one from the same director.
Okay.
Terry Gilliam, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The Fisher King.
Oh, yeah.
With Jeff Bridges.
Again, dealing with reality.
Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams.
What is real?
What is real? And him dealing with his sanity and that the Fisher King, the story of a search for the Holy Grail, and the Holy Grail, you can't find the Holy Grail; it can only be given to you. Yeah. You can't find salvation; only salvation can be given to you. That's grace.
Yeah, and
great.
You need
Go,
to be a little
movies.
crazy to have it given to you too.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah.
That's a. Well, I mean, if you think about it, Paul's asked. I mean, again, before movies, before all this great stuff, Paul's asking the very same question: Is this real? I mean, I'm looking in a mirror darkly dimmed.
Yes.
So, what is the nature of reality? And Paul went there.
And what is it?
Yeah.
But now I see. I don't really know. But I do know. What I do know is there are three things that remain:
Yeah.
faith, hope, and love.
Yeah, I think. I do think that there's obviously we live in a sinful world and God's in the process of redeeming it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing inherently wrong with our material world. There's just, it's being fashioned in ways that are not of God's design. But I think when the redemption process takes place, we will live in a different world. It will be like we're waking up into something that is, yes, something that is, yes, it is tangible,
Yeah.
but it's the colors or avatar color, maybe not
Yes.
literally, but like,
Yes.
it's going to be like, oh, this is what it was supposed to be like.
Yeah. When we finally get ejected out of this flesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, let's talk about our Jesus movie.
Our
This is
Jesus
the one
movie.
we both agreed. I can't believe we didn't get one that we agreed on.
We didn't, but I thought
I
I
know.
loved it. I'm kind of glad about that.
Yeah,
but
me
I think
too.
it's really neat because I've learned from you and you're learning
Likewise.
about me, and I love this. But we all agreed. We both agreed on our Jesus movie.
We both agreed on it.
A 1959
Old.
record holder of the most Academy Awards of any movie until James Cameron produced Titanic, and they're
too
tied
bad.
for 11.
That's too bad.
That's too bad. So, Ben-Hur by William Wyler, starring Charlton Heston and a myriad, based on the book Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ by Sir Lew Wallace. And 1959. And it's called A Tale of the Christ. When did you first become aware of it?
I saw the movie as a kid at home. I'm not sure if it was on a VHS tape or what. And I loved it just because I was a history nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And it's epic, right?
It is the epic movie.
And in the movie, it doesn't have the tale of a Christ. So I didn't know.
No, it does.
In the movie, it does?
It does. Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ.
Is it on the movie poster?
Not necessarily so. But
On that one, I think it does say that on there. It does. Okay.
Where?
Well, anyway,
Where does it say?
It's really in the small print, right on the top of it.
A Tale of the Christ.
Yeah, I am wrong. Well, anyway, I didn't see it when I first started getting into it. I didn't see it as a Jesus movie. I'm like, this is a really cool history movie.
Mm-hmm.
I get to know all about Rome. I get to know all about the Levant. This is so like as a history nerd, I was like sucked into it.
Okay.
And then the story between the two friends is it. I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It is. It could be as one of they don't happen very often, but at the time it was created and made, it was a perfect movie.
Yeah, sure.
And why they made a remake of it, I'll never know.
I didn't even bother watching the remake.
I did.
Was it terrible?
I would have rather. Yeah.
rather
I
have-
didn't care for it.
You'd rather have sharp needles poked in your eyes?
No, I would rather
okay.
have spent the money and watch the 1959 watch Charlton Heston as Ben-Hur. I would rather done that.
I couldn't do it.
And there's no improving on what they've done.
All right, before we get into the deep stuff, let's talk about the chariot scene.
Okay.
So cool.
It is, to me, this is my opinion,
Yeah.
but I think it is the best filmed action sequence of all time.
For sure.
It's number one.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it. See, I've seen this movie in the theater when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're lucky, yeah.
And it was in the Hastings Theater in Pasadena. And
Wow.
see, I saw the movies when they had intermissions.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
This had an intermission.
Yeah.
Lawrence of Arabia has an intermission.
Love Lawrence of Arabia.
Right?
Okay. We'll have to talk about that some other time.
Yeah. And so I saw this, and the chariot race. I've seen this movie dozens of times, easy.
Yeah.
Right now, as a 65-year-old man, I get the same tension
Sure.
watching the chariot race
Yeah.
than I did the first time I saw it.
Now, didn't you tell me that there's no music to it?
Okay, so there's a beautiful score that plays throughout. Everything
Yeah.
has a theme.
Right.
Music goes clear up to when the chariot race comes in and they march around and all the contestants like ride around the chariot. It stops when the chariot race starts. There's no music
Yeah.
driving the narrative. None. There's no,
Drama.
it doesn't even start in the middle. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
they let the drama go and then the music comes in the middle just to
Yeah.
catch you. There's none of that. The tension is all
The horses.
driven by the horse
Yeah.
hooves,
That's incredible.
the crowd,
Yeah.
and the clacking of the chariots.
Yeah.
It is incredible. And to watch it and to hear all of that.
Yeah. And it's long.
It's long.
I mean, that race scene
But
takes forever.
I mean,
Yeah.
because, and I know those beautiful white horses every time. I know they're going to win
Yeah.
and they're going to be fine. But when that chariot with the blades
Yeah, I know.
starts coming to the
It's
horses,
terrifying.
I'm still like you.
And I know that.
I think they're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And aren't those horses?
Oh, they're incredible. And the black ones
Have
too.
a horseman.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just it's
Oh,
incredible.
it's beautiful.
Lucas ripped it off in whatever that Star Wars movie was with the kid and the. Did you see Star Wars?
yeah.
So he ripped it off. And I mean, it didn't do it justice.
You mean with the
pod
racer?
racers?
Yeah.
So he did that.
Oh yeah.
The only thing that's comparable to that race scene would be Steve McQueen's bullet with the car chase, because that too took forever. And from the way that we do action movies now, chase they're short, right? And they're explosive, and but these two,
I thought you would mention that too, but I would even put this above it.
oh, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
It just is incredible. And then he wins. Dun 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 dun. Then the score comes in.
Yeah.
But the whole time,
It's a masterpiece.
So.
And there is no Jesus for the most part throughout the entire movie.
Okay, Wick.
With the one exception.
Here's what it is.
Yeah.
They make you think that.
Yeah.
Because why? You never see his face.
You never see his face.
You see him. He's in it.
Yeah.
And he's in. He's in. This is probably one of my most moving scenes of all time in cinema. Is when Judah Ben-Hur is sentenced to the galleys. And he has to go through the Judean desert.
Yep. That's it.
And he goes through Nazareth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, likewise.
You know where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going.
Going through Nazareth.
Yeah.
And the guards are telling everybody the towns are giving the prisoners water, and one stupid guard said, no water for him.
Yeah.
And the despair and the brokenness.
Yeah.
And he's just at the level. And then you hear his music.
Yeah.
And all you see is the hands.
Yep. And then Heston's face.
Huh?
And then Charlton's face.
And Charlton's face.
Yeah.
And he looks up at Jesus. Yeah. And the thing is, the thing that I loved about that is you don't need to see Jesus for Jesus to have an impact on your life.
Yeah. And that's the same take home I have with the movie too. Because he is living life, and it goes from good to really bad. And then and Jesus is there in the desert, and
well, his life parallels.
Yeah. And in a weird way, it's kind of like your Groundhog Day movie, where he's in the details, he's there, but we don't necessarily recognize God's grace in our lives. And it doesn't get better for Judah after that moment.
No.
I mean,
no. But, as he says later, a man gave me some water and gave me a heart to go on.
Yeah. No, that's incredible.
Gave me the will to go on.
Yeah.
And that's and maybe someday in the midst of our Groundhog Day, in the midst of all of this, all we have,
Yeah.
when we don't see an end to our pain, all we have is that cup of cold water, that living water from Christ that gives us the will to go on.
The will to go on. The other moment is in the end with the leprosy scene.
Mm-hmm. Talk about that.
And okay, so this is, again, with the exception of the desert.
Let me just pause
Yeah.
here. And I just want to say at this point in time,
Yeah.
said we're not necessarily recommending the other movies to see. That's your choice.
Yeah.
We're not. This is a must.
Absolutely.
Ben-Hur,
Yeah.
the 1959 Charlton Heston movie, is a must for every human being on the planet. Not the least of which, but for every believer in Jesus.
Sure.
Everybody should see this movie.
Yeah.
It's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then it ends with the resurrection of Christ.
No, the crucifixion.
The crucifixion.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that anybody would say is that it doesn't
true.
have a resurrection, but it ends with the crucifixion. But that's okay. Because
then his family is healed in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Yeah.
At this point. But talk about the leprosy.
Yeah. Okay. So he doesn't have a single encounter with God or a miracle his entire life. Mm-mm. I mean, even meeting Jesus in the desert with the water, there's still no miracle there.
No.
There's no deliverance.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't get the supernatural breakthrough until the very end, until Jesus does the work on the cross. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. And he rejects an invitation to the Sermon on the Mount. That's right. I forgot about that part. He rejects it. He said, "No, I got business with Rome." Yeah, I forgot about that part. Yeah. Wow. Ben-Hur. So Ben-Hur even outdid Passion of the Christ for both of us. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was... Passion of the Christ is a pretty good Jesus movie. Pretty good Jesus movie. There, I want to point out another scene in Ben-Hur. And this is... He comes back from witnessing the crucifixion. And he's in his house. By the way, wasn't his villa? Oh, the villa, that real. Wasn't that awesome? It was awesome. Oh my gosh, I want to live there. Right. But he came back and he sees Esther, a love interest, and he's just witnessed it, and he says this line, and talks about how the crucifixion. He said he didn't do anything. He was innocent. Yeah, yeah. And he said, when he said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." Yeah. I felt his words take the sword out of my hand. Mm. And she doesn't say anything except she just looks up to the steps and sees his mother and sister come out whole. Healed and whole, yeah. And if you're not crying by then, right. You're crying at that. Yeah, for sure. It's So let's talk about why did the Passion, which was done so well, and beautifully, why does Ben-Hur trump the Passion for me? Not just the chariot race. It does. I mean, even though it is a history and an incredible story, it seems to be more real life. Ben-Hur or Passion? Yeah. Ben-Hur. I mean, it involves people. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that the Gospels don't. I mean, how about you? I mean, it just seems like Jesus in real life versus the Gospel stories retold. Well, I think the thing is that what people are responding to us as Christians and pastors is
they're responding to how we react to Christ.
Right.
How do we react to Jesus?
Right.
And as as the faceless Jesus presents us, how do we have to make that choice?
Yeah.
The Passion, I think, was a very courageous film. Now, being a historian, how would you judge the accuracy of everything they put Jesus through in the Passion?
It's probably pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people can't watch that movie more than once.
Sure. It was intentionally brutal.
It was intentionally brutal.
Yeah.
And what we say with all love as pastors is deal with it.
Right.
Because that's what happened.
Yeah, and that's that's hard to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one wants to talk about uncomfortable things.
And nobody wants to see.
No.
It's easy to have the knowledge in our head that flesh was ripped from Jesus' body.
Right. But to see it.
Yeah,
that was. Now I remember I saw that screening at Azusa Pacific before they went out to theaters. They gave a preview to church leaders, and coming out of that theater was rough. It was rough. There were people crying all over the place. It was weird. I mean, a good weird.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was really.
And again, that's an encounter with Jesus.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, you could see that people weren't just moved because somebody was playing with their emotional buttons.
Mm-hmm.
You could see that they were moved because the Spirit of God was moving
Mm-hmm.
in that movie. And that's because so you haven't seen The Chosen yet, have you?
I've seen parts of it.
I haven't. I've seen little parts of it too. I can't get there yet because
I don't. Yeah, and I don't know that I can. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the thing is, and I hope nobody is put off by our snobbery.
that is. I don't know.
But I have, because the thing is for me it's just personal in the sense that there's this thing out there that says, "Have you seen The Chosen?" It's almost like every Christian's supposed to.
I know. I feel like a bad
It's something
Christian,
you should
Yeah.
like.
Right.
And I'm.
I know. I'm going to give it a fair shake, but
I'll give it a fair shake too.
But it's difficult.
My brother
because-
loves it. Yeah,
Everybody in my church loves it. Again, I feel like
okay,
a bad
and
Christian
that's
because I haven't seen
and
it.
and so in one sense we shouldn't trash it.
We shouldn't trash it.
And so
I'm not going to trash it. But still, for me, like Jim Caviezel's Jesus.
okay,
So I don't know how to get around that.
yeah.
I don't want to ruin it. So
Okay.
anyway,
My Jesus?
that Matthew from
No. My Jesus?
yeah,
Rembrandt.
that's what I was going to say.
The Rembrandt,
Rembrandt.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
That's my Jesus.
Yeah. I like that one too.
So, there will be a chapter 2.
I think so.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
chapter 2
Well,
of all this.
we're all done. That was a fun one, Joel.
Yeah, it is one,
And-
and I hope, if nothing else, we have changed the posture that you and I take when we go in and view films.
Yeah.
because movies aren't going away.
No,
anytime soon.
And I do think we teach this to our kids at church, or to our parents to talk to our kids about the movies that they see and ask them questions like, did you see Jesus in that movie? Again, in some movies Jesus is all over the place. Mm-hmm. I can't believe you didn't talk about Superman, but he's all over Superman movies.
I want a subject. I want comic book movies to be a whole different.
All right. Okay, gotcha.
Artistic subject, because I could go on forever and ever.
Yeah, but you see that iconic Christ pose in a lot of movies, whether it's Alien, Superman, Lord of the Rings, Cool Hand Luke. I mean, they play with that image so much, and most of the time we don't even notice it. But again, if we're not, I wouldn't have noticed it unless I would have had a high school teacher that said, you need to look for the Christ imagery in this film. It's all over the place.
I think that's true. And my father, the pastor,
Yeah.
changed that imagery for me in a positive way, because he said in a sermon that he was preaching, he says, we have been taught in the world to live defensively, protecting ourselves. Sure. He says, but if we begin to let the Spirit of the Lord affect our life in Christ, we begin to break that bondage and that defensive nature, right. and we begin to embrace one another and embrace each other in love, and all of a sudden we take on the same posture as Christ did when he died on the cross. And this is a very powerful image. Yep. It's an image of love.
Right.
It's an image of sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's an image of openness.
Yeah.
So we could go on.
We can go on and on.
And on.
I do think that maybe next time or in our other conversations, we need to talk about maybe idolatry. What does that really look like?
What's that really look like? And because it's all over the art world.
It's all over the art world. And, is VeggieTales, is that idolatry? Technically it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the Muslims got it right. I don't know. But, all right.
I prayed last time.
Oh, you did. All right. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your word, and we thank you for your truth. We thank you that you're in the details. Jesus, you're in our everyday life, even when we don't see you, sense you, or feel you, or hear you. But you're in the still small whisper, and you want us to wake up to your truth. You want us to be born again, to be transformed, to become more and more like you each and every day. We'll never reach that full potential, but we have to strive for it. And so, God, I pray that you'll continue just to transform us into your likeness. I pray that we won't accept the things that the world has to offer, but yet we'll learn how to live in it and not be a part of it. And so, God, give us wisdom in how to move forward. And help us to see you wherever you're moving. I pray this in your name. Bless everybody watching. Amen.
Amen.